Yeah, I'm here at Moog or
Yes,
Moog.
Moog.
Yeah, and you have a new thing, the Messenger.
Yes.
What is it?
The Messenger is the next generation of analog monophonic synthesizers from us at Moog. We wanted to make a synthesizer that was a bit more approachable, ready to tour, ready to take with you in a bag, but still not sacrificing on full-size keys, 32 full-size keys, velocity and aftertouch. A synthesizer that feels really robust and sturdy, but also is ready to gig with you and is a little more portable. And also one that would fold into studios of any kind. It has CV and Eurorack in and out to talk with the rest of your gear, and MIDI as well. And you can also do MIDI over USB-C. So, you know, a synthesizer that might be someone's first synthesizer, someone who's working in a DAW and wants a powerful analog synthesizer, or you know, a synthesizer for larger studios, because we also have a lot of really interesting new features in here. It sounds, we have the range of sound that Messenger can travel has a lot of the Moog legacy in it, but also a couple of new twists.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. How does it compare to the legacy Moogs, like the Sub 37?
Yeah. It's a very different circuit. All the circuits are very different from the Sub 37. The oscillators, for example, are new designs from us. They are capable of the traditional shapes, you know, triangle, saw, and square and pulse, but also when you go below the triangle, you get wave folding. Wave folding we introduced last year on Labyrinth, and we were really excited to bring the unique wave folders that we developed for Labyrinth to Messenger. And so being able to have that wave folding as a really interesting timbral range that you couldn't get on something like the Sub 37. And we have two oscillators, both with independent wave folders. So you get a lot of really interesting sounds from that.
Is it just two oscillators, or does it have a sub-oscillator?
It has a sub-oscillator as well, which is really interesting. The sub-oscillator is always one octave below oscillator 1, and a really unique feature of the sub-oscillator on Messenger is that it's variable shape. Usually sub-oscillators are only square wave, but here we have square through pulse and also a triangle. And I really like using the triangle wave sub-oscillator because you can get a lot of focused low end without cluttering up the upper harmonics that you have going on.
Yep.
And those all come together. The oscillators also have, you know, sync. There's some interesting mod routings. There's also FM, linear through 0 FM, so you can get really interesting like bell and mallet textures with Messenger that you wouldn't expect typically from a Moog synth.
Can you give me an example of that, maybe?
Yes. Let's see. If I just go to use these two triangles and then increase the FM, I can start to get, especially if I tune them. And then if I do something, I can take the filter envelope, for example, assign it to the FM depth, and then I have my filter envelope controlling the FM, so you get almost kind of like DX7 bass sounds, but in the context fully analog oscillators, fully analog signal path, so you can get really an interesting, more broad timbral range. Yeah.
What's the weirdest thing you can do with that?
The weirdest thing you can do with the weirdest thing you can do, I don't know, man. You can play.
Yeah, because that's always a problem. Like, you can get a really nice bass line, you can get a really nice sounding synth, but it always sounds like Hans Zimmer. But I don't know, maybe you want to do something weird for dance sound design.
I mean, we have, for example, we have 16 banks of 16 patches each. They're all organized, so going to bank 15 is our weirdo bank. So here you can get, I don't know exactly which of these use FM in a very weird way, but here's where you can kind of do a lot of more interesting, you know, kind of strange sounding things. But yeah, that's, you know, a fun feature of Messenger. We also have the ladder filter, which is it's a traditional ladder filter design, but you know, the ladder filter is a rung of matched transistor pairs, and by taking the outputs, the different outputs of the rung, the different outputs of the transistor ladder, and mixing them together and doing some interesting inversion to the mixing, we've been able to get new modes for the ladder filter. So we have the
new ones, because usually the people always like the old filters.
Exactly. Well, we have the old filter exactly as it always is. Again, that's the thing.
Can you show that?
Yeah, the filter on here is the typical Moog ladder filter that you know and love. Yeah. And it sounds exactly, because it is the exact same ladder filter. But by taking the outputs and playing with them a bit, we can get a 2-pole low-pass filter for a bit of a brighter tonality, and then a proper bandpass filter and a high-pass filter. So these are things that the transistor ladder filter has never really done before. And we also have resonance compensation. So, for example, we go to the 4-pole low pass. Obviously, with the ladder filter, as you increase the resonance, the low end attenuates and starts to drop out. But by activating the res bass switch, the low end comes back in.
But it doesn't go out of hand, like usually with resonance.
I mean, it can go plenty out of hand. If you crank the resonance, it definitely goes out of hand, especially if you don't have res bass engaged. It's the same classic, it's this classic, craziness of the ladder filter at high resonances, because that's what it is. But with the res bass, you get a bit of a different texture when you're playing with extremely high resonance settings.
Okay, and it also got an knob?
Sorry?
It also got an arpeggiator?
Yes, it has a sequencer and arpeggiator. Both are very approachable and easy to use. For example, the sequencer, if I record on the sequencer, I just plug in some notes and then press play to get it going. This is really low, but...
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. But so we wanted to make it really easy to punch in notes, really performative, but each sequence is 64 steps, and you can do interesting probabilistic programming if you want. You can dive in and engage certain notes to randomly change what note it's playing and randomly drop out, and you can also define a pool of notes that it'll pull from. And the arpeggiator is, the arpeggiator, we also took some things from Muse.
How do you control that? Is it just up and down, or?
So the arpeggiator is set with this switch either randomly, so it just randomly pulls from whatever chord you're holding down, and the pattern chooses a pattern, and you can go, if you go to settings and arp pattern, then you can choose between 16 patterns, so that we have up, down, the conventional patterns, and then we also have some of the more leapfrogging, strange patterns that we developed for the Muse arpeggiator. And also with the arpeggiator, which is really nice, you can program a rhythm, which is a really handy thing on the arpeggiator.
What do you mean you can program a rhythm? Like I know this from the Polyevolver from Dave Smith's, for example.
Yeah. I mean,
you can sequence the arpeggiator.
Yeah, exactly. Everything. Yeah, so I mean, instead of holding down a note, when you're holding down a chord, instead of always going at 16th notes or whatever, you can have 16 steps that you can program a little rhythm here, and then when you hold that, that's kind of, it's playing the arp, but skipping the steps that you disable. So you can add rhythmic movement to the arpeggiator that's not always, strictly on the clock.
Okay, and it's quite accessible.
Yeah.
Though you don't have a display or anything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everything is, we wanted to have a synth that was what you see is what you get. Very hands-on, knob per function. If you have used a mono synth before, you pretty much know where your hands go to control what you need to control. But with some deeper things you can set in the settings menu and some deeper functionality baked in. Also with modulation routings, we have two LFOs. One is on the pitch.
I was about to ask, what can you access with the LFO?
So the LFO2 here is tied to the mod wheel, and that can go to the cutoff of the filter, the pitch, or the amplitude of the signal. And it's a triangle wave LFO. And so this is a kind of like performance-focused LFO. And then LFO1 is a little deeper. You can select wave shapes. You can select destinations and set a bipolar depth. And then you can also say, for example, I can hold this to assign LFO1 to control any panel control. So in this case, I have it modulating the amplitude of oscillator 1 in the mixer.
So this is something new. I've seen that in smaller companies like Neuron, where you can just access or assign the LFO to any knob on the panel.
Yes, exactly.
This is possible here now.
Yes, it's something we developed for. It's how the modulation routing works in Muse. Very simple. Hold down your source and then play with the knob of the destination to dial in the modulation depth. And so, you can do that for LFO1, for both envelopes, the keyboard, and then also velocity and aftertouch from the keyboard. The expression input, so that could be expression pedal or a control voltage signal, and also the keyboard sample and hold, which is a random voltage every time I press a key. So that can be modulated. So it's a bit of so you can get deeper modulation possibilities for those who want to program those deeper sounds, but also everything on the panel is ready to go with destinations and mod routings ready to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. That can go crazy really fast.
Yes.
Where is it available and what's it going to retail for?
It's available for pre-order right now, shipping June 2nd, and the retail price is 849 euros, $899, and I can't remember the price in pounds, but you can infer.
They'll know.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.